The Added Time Podcast.
Welcome to the Added Time Podcast, episode 10. Amazing that we've made it here, guys. A decade. No, that's completely wrong. Just 10 podcasts, guys. We're into double figures now. Thanks if you're listening, staying with us. Of course, we're bashing all these podcasts out. This is the second Monday we'll have on our new schedule. We aim to keep doing that. Hope you're enjoying the Champions League and Europa League restart. So yeah, let's just get into this. We're going to be reviewing the Premier League season, which has just been now. It's of course been a bit of a long one in total, but let's get into my guests I have today. As usual, they're the same. James Ward, how you doing?
I'm not going to keep you guys in the dark here. We're going back to back, like Drake once said. So here we are, still in the shed, banging out another podcast for you guys. But yeah, I'm fantastic. Thank you, Tias, and excited to have some fiery debate, probably mostly with you. Harry, how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited we're getting these podcasts out lickety split from now on. So hope you're all excited. And yeah, it's good to be back for another episode with the boys.
Yeah, so let's just get into it. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be picking our Premier League team of the seasons. You can look at one that's on the 45plus3.com website. And you can listen to ours as well and comment on our Twitter what yours is. We'll also be rating each team with a grade report on how their season's been. But let's kick into it. Let's start with the goalkeeper, guys. I'm going to start with this one because I think it's got to be Nick Pope. 16 clean sheets, only one behind Edison. I mean, that's just incredible. Any debate with that?
No debate. I'll go with Pope. Had Watford stayed up, I really like Ben Foster. I think that would have been a single-handed keep up had he managed that feat, but unfortunately not this time out. So yeah, sadly going to have to concede the point. This might be the only one I agree with Tiers on, to be honest. But yeah, Harry, are we going to make it a clean sweep for Nicholas Pope?
No, I'm not. I've just thought of someone. Dean Henderson. I think we're all forgetting. And I'm more impressed with him is because Sheffield don't necessarily sit back and defend. Like, Nick Pope definitely has more protection just from the way Burnley play. They sit men behind the ball. So he definitely gets more protection from that. Whereas Sheffield press high. They get their centre-backs run through, bash them. And is it O'Connell? Like, they're told to run through. So I definitely... I think Dean Henderson's been overlooked here. So, you know what, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to pick Dean Henderson for my goalkeeper. And also, Sheffield's feats compared to Burnley, a lot more impressive this season.
Yeah, of course, interesting stuff there. I think the fact they're both English is quite good for us. Looking ahead to the Euros, I think Pickford's going to have some... quite hard stuff to be put up with. We're going to go with the fullbacks now, starting with the right back and left back. I'm assuming it's going to be a clean sweep, considering both of these Liverpool fullbacks have got into double figures for assists this season. I think James is probably going to have the most opinion on this. What do you think?
I'll go with Arnold purely because I quite like him. Tactical genius, really technical genius as well. Probably as good with his feet as the likes of like David Silva, etc. And he plays right back. I mean, it is insane. But, and it's a big but, at left back, it's a difficult one for me. Personally, I really don't like Andy Robertson. So I'm not sure who I'm going to go with here. I'm going to throw the mic to Harry, and I'm going to come back to you with my left back very shortly.
I think it's hard to overlook them just on stats wise, but for me, they get them assists from just the way Liverpool play. They sort of feed. That's how they play. They feed it to their fullbacks and they whip it in. It's just the sort of way they play, unlike other teams, really. But for me, a shout on a left back has to be Ender Stevens. I've been really impressed with him this season. I know he probably wouldn't be in most people's teams, but I think he's very underrated. And one of the main reasons that I think Sheffield are doing so well, I think he's quality. And at right back, special mention for my man, Cesar Azpilicueta. I would say Chelsea's most consistent player this season. He's proved the doubters wrong. I don't think either of them should get over the two Liverpool fullbacks, but they're just my honourable mentions.
Back with me, guys. I've found my left back. We're going Johnny. Really like him. Fantastic player for Wolves, and has carried them through this season at the back. So Tier's giving me a funny look there, but I've gone with Johnny.
It's probably going to be the most random pick of the day, but I think anything to get over Andy Robertson. We'll start with the centre backs. This is one you can debate quite intensely. For me, I think you got to go with Van Dijk because he's just been brilliant at the back for Liverpool. I don't think you can argue with a player having more of an impact at a club in recent times. And alongside him, I think it's a tough one for me. I think it's definitely between Soyuncu, who's been really good. Of course, Johnny Evans as well, who may have carried him a lot this season. And then, of course, big shout out, maybe this is my one, Chris Basham, Sheffield United's player of the season this year. I think he's been fantastic. He's acted as one of the centre-backs who gets in the box. And it's just something we've never really seen in the Premier League. And, of course, Sheffield United's defensive record. I mean, the fact they're so high up in the table and scoring under 40 goals this season just is a credit to their defence that gets them through the games. Harry, you got any opinions on that?
I think, you got to have Virgil. I don't think you're ridiculous if you don't. But the other centre-back, it is hard. I think Lewis Dunk, honourable mention, and James Tarkowski, along with Pope, they've kept so many clean sheets, and I think he's definitely helped Pope to get that sort of level. But I think this is a very tough one. But for me, I'm going to go Johnny Evans for me. Mr. Consistent. I think Soyuncu actually bottled it for Leicester. I think that red card hurt them a lot. I think if he was playing the United game, things could have been very different. And you know what, for me, I'm going to go Johnny Evans alongside Virgil van Dijk.
I'm happy to stick with Van Dijk. I'm going to expose Tiers here. He in his actual team that he picked firstly, he had John Egan. He had John Egan in the team, not Chris Basham. I think he then realised that Basham actually won Sheffield United Player of the Season, and then had to sort of backtrack. But as my next centre back, I'm gonna go with on a similar vein of what Harry said, along the Burnley lines. But I'm not going to go James Tarkowski. I'm going to go for Ben Mee. I think he's been fantastic this season, and perhaps if he had a few years off the clock, I reckon he'd be in with a shout for the England team for the Euros next year. But for me, Ben Mee alongside Virgil van Dijk. What a back four that is.
Yeah, so we're all in agreement about Van Dijk, and then you take your pick list, and between Basham, me, and Evans. I think all are great shouts. Let's get into the midfield three. I think two of them are basically nailed on, and that's De Bruyne and Henderson. James is shaking his head, but one is the Football Writers Player of the Year award, and then De Bruyne has just broken absolutely crazy records for assists this season and just been a standout player. I think he's really pushed himself up into that bracket with Messi and Ronaldo this year, and I think he would have been in for a shout for Ballon d'Or, which is a shame that it's not on. Alongside them, I'll let you guys start. Harry, who do you think should be alongside them, or do you think De Bruyne and Henderson shouldn't be in there?
God, you know what? It's really hard to pick for that centre mid position because there's been so many good performances, and I think it is difficult. But a lot of people are going to say Bruno Fernandes, but I don't think you can creep someone in. As much as he has been very impactful, it's hard to creep someone in that spot over that little games. I think it'd be unfair. But for me, I'm going to go for Ndidi next to them. Really liked him this season. I think he's the rock in that midfield. Tielemans is good, but I think he's not as consistent. Maddison's obviously been injured. But I'm going to go for Ndidi alongside them. I know it's a bit defensive, that midfield three, but that's not what it's about. I think they are the three best midfielders this season.
I'm gonna put my balls on the chopping board again. I'm gonna say De Bruyne's got to be in there. Fantastic players, really proved himself this season. I'm gonna take Henderson out, and I'm gonna put in Kovacic in his position as the sort of holder, and then for my final centre mid position, I'm actually going to go for Ruben Neves. I think he's been fantastic this season. Once again, season upon season upon season, the guy keeps performing. That volley against
wasn't even in the league.
Yeah, that volley in the Europa League. I'm sorry, but he's been fantastic this season. Again, the guy never stops. I think, and I might be wrong, guys, but Harry is asking for the mic. I think he's realised that I've come in with a great shout here in Kovacic, and he's going to back me here.
Yeah, instantly retracting my statement. Tiers has twisted my mind because he's got this team up with only a couple selections, and Kovacic wasn't on there. So yeah, Kovacic, Chelsea Player of the Year. So yeah, I'm taking Ndidi out, Kovacic in. I'm only leaving Henderson in because they won the league. I agree that I think since the restart he's been poor, but I think quite a lot of the Liverpool team have. But yeah, Kovacic back in for me, so I think that's nailed on 2v1. So unlucky, Tiers.
What are we taking out Henderson then? Did you say?
No, I'm happy to concede Henderson.
Yeah. Did you say Henderson out? All right. Okay. Well, my shout for alongside them would have been Maddison if he had stayed fit for the whole season. I think he really was. But the English centre attacking mid who's really proved himself this season is Jack Grealish. 8 goals, 7 assists. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's really carried Villa at times when they just weren't playing that well. And I think he's definitely worth a punt for one of the big teams. I think anyone who doesn't think that Grealish has ability is a fool. James, what's your argument on that?
Never once doubted the fact that Grealish has ability, but to say he's going to go in the Premier League team of the season over the likes of Ruben Neves, Wilfred Ndidi, James Maddison, like you said, I know he's not stayed fit until after the restart, but you've got to have Maddison over Grealish every single day of the week. I mean, I can't argue with the fact he's in there. His stats are fantastic, but me and Harry have touched upon it privately, and we think that Grealish's stats are sort of untrue, should we say, because he is literally Villa's only player. So yeah, I just think it's unfair to put him in there over the two we've suggested.
Yeah, I think his output stats are quite twisted, where if you compare it to De Bruyne, who actually has better or similar stats, and he's playing in a team with Sterling, Bernardo Silva, etc., like much better players. Grealish, literally, they have only him. All they do is pass to him. So obviously his output stats, assists, goals, like dribbles, is obviously going to get better because he gets the ball 90% of Aston Villa attack. So I think they are a little bit twisted compared to De Bruyne, who's creating that many goals, and he's got to share them with so many other great players. So I think that his is way more impressive. I think Grealish is slightly overrated in that fact, but I still think he is a good player.
Okay, well that will make the attackers interesting then, because we can't have Ings then if he's the only one who scores goals for Southampton, because that is basically what you just said. So let's move in.
Anyway.
Let's move into the front three. James, you start with your front three.
So I'm going to go. You can't not have the top goal scorer in there. So James Vardy's got to be in there for me. Emphatic the fact he's done it at, what is he now, over 30 years old or something. He's just been incredible. And then left wing, we're going to go for Mr. Raheem Sterling. Fantastic season yet again from him. Goals and assists speak for themselves. And then at right wing, for a team much further down the league than most of the teams we've mentioned today, I'm going to go for Newcastle's right winger, Alan St-Maximin. What a player. I mean, a breakout season, it speaks for itself. The guy's been on top form in that Newcastle team, which is just shocking. I mean, you've got him, John Joe Shelby, and perhaps Martin Dubravka being the only really good players in that team. St-Maximin, I mean, goals and assists wise, perhaps not, but in terms of overall performance and the stuff he can do on the ball, I mean, that pace is electrifying. I mean, the only other person that really comes close to him for me is Adama Traore. Who you could argue should be in there, but doesn't start enough games for me. He comes off the bench a lot, so I'm going to go Alan St-Maximin. You guys can argue the point.
Yeah, I agree with Vardy and Sterling. Sterling 20 goals from the wing is just incredible, and Vardy, of course, at his age to be doing what he does, he's definitely been the standout striker this season. St-Maximin, he's had some standout games, I think, is over the course of the season. He's only made 26 appearances, so then we should really be having Bruno Fernandes in there at this rate. So that's my argument, but I think on the other wing, you can't not look past Mohamed Salah. Again, he was going for the Golden Boot. Liverpool have won the league emphatically. I think you could have Mane in there, I guess. Mane or Salah, either one, I think, would be my other winger. Harry, what's your opinion?
Well, I haven't had the mic, but Tia's talking about Ings' output, but it's completely different because Grealish is so wasteful. Ings' efficiency is ridiculous. Yeah, he scores all the goals, but he's efficient, whereas I feel Grealish is just ridiculously wasteful. And yeah, I don't think that's a similar point in any way. But for me, I'm going left wing Aubameyang, whereas he has played there. Unlucky not to get the golden boot. You know, was it who was it, Nketiah that sweated him the ball on the last game? Just a bit ridiculous from Arsenal. I don't know what they were doing, just trying to feed him the golden boot. Very strange. So I'm going him on left wing. 22 goals, and it literally Arsenal without him would, God, I don't know where they'd be. 15th, or they'd be. He carries them for me. Up front, yeah, you have to have Jamie Vardy, Golden Boot winner, and Leicester's best player easily. And I know Leicester fans will be disappointed, but still a great season for them. I'd say. I think that if before the season you said they'd come fifth, I think a lot of them would be very happy with that. And on right wing, I'm joining James with Sterling. T.S. mentions Salah, but I think Sterling's actually got more goals. And I think a lot of City players are overlooked just because they didn't win the league, but actually their stats, and I think they scored the most goals this season in the Premier League. So I think they topped most stat things. I think Liverpool just grinded out to get wins, whereas Man City's defensive frailties this season is what let them down. But yeah, you still can't look past City, so I'm picking Sterling again for me. So I'm going to Aubameyang, Vardy, and Sterling for me.
Yeah, I completely overlooked Aubameyang being a winger, so I think you could put him in over Salah. I had Sterling, Salah, and Vardy, but I'll change. Salah for Aubameyang? But yeah, after this quick twang, we're going to get into our grades for the teams. Right, and we're back. We're going to be looking through the table, and we're going to decide whether we think it's been a good season for each team. We're going to talk about a team each. It's going to be quick fire. Start with James and Liverpool. Give them a grade out of 10.
Annoyingly, because I don't really like Liverpool and I hate most of their players, but you can't not give them a 10. I mean, they're 1 point off the ton. Fantastically didn't break the record, which is kind of embarrassing considering the position they were in upon the restart. Man City still probably the greatest feat on points. But yeah, you can't not give Liverpool 10.
Yeah.
On to Harry for Man City's grading this season.
Well, I'm matching James on the Liverpool, as I think T as well. And on to City. For me, it's a hard one. 81 points. They haven't done bad. I think for them, it's just too many silly losses. Like the one against Chelsea. They just haven't been up for the races in the big games for me. So, but a good season, a lot of good performances. And I think stats-wise, I think they've topped goals scored, lot of stats, but most possession. So I'm going to give them a 7, only because they set high standards. When you spend as much money as they do, you can't be nearly 20 points off the top. So I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. And T.S. is going to do Manchester United.
Yeah, with United finishing third just about, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. I think with the money they spent, that's exactly... They should at least be challenging for the title. I think they would get less in my books for how far off the pace they've been. 33 points off the top, but their bad start and coming back into it, I guess the way they came back bumps it up a bit. But I think a 7 is fair for them. Next,
Chelsea. Harry will tell you that a season where they didn't expect much as the fans. Transfer ban upon them. Nothing new apart from Pulisic. I mean, it was looking pretty dire for Chelsea at the start of the season. But swings and roundabouts, here they are at 4th position, going into the Champions League next season. An FA Cup final to play as well. I think you can't give them any less than an 8, so I'm going to go for an 8 for Chelsea.
Yeah, as the resident Chelsea fan, I just want to agree with James on that one. I think people thought we'd be where Arsenal are, or lower, before the start of the season. I think we proved everyone wrong. And it just made me laugh at the end where people were saying, oh, Chelsea are going to bottle top 4, when no one even thought we'd be anywhere near that at the start of the season. So I think 8's a bit unfair. I'd go 9. You're never a 10 if you don't win the league. But anyway, on to Leicester. Do you know what? As much as Leicester fans will be annoyed with their demise since Christmas, I think if you said to them at the start of the season they'd be above Tottenham, Wolves, Arsenal, etc., I don't think they'd be too unhappy. I know it's annoying from the position they were in, but 5th for them, it wasn't great at the end of the season, but I think still, if you look perspective from the start of the season, I'd still give them a 7 out of 10 for this season. And a lot of their players have improved, and I think next year they'll be even better, especially a learning experience after dropping out. So on to tears for Tottenham in sixth.
Yeah, for me, Tottenham in finishing sixth this season is nothing more than a 3 out of 10 from me. Everyone's pre-season predictions had them finishing third or higher. They'd just been in a Champions League final. I mean, to not even be in the race for top four at all this season until the end has been terrible. I think a 3, you've got to be bullish for them because it's just not good enough for the players they have. Next season, finishing sixth would probably be better because that's where people are expecting them to finish. But the fact I've watched back on all the pre-season predictions, I don't think anyone had them lower than third. And for me, that is why they're getting a 3 out of 10 from me.
On to Wolves. I mean, just looking at the table here, 15 wins and 14 draws. Imagine had they converted even perhaps 3 or 4 of them draws into wins, they'd be up in the top 4 almost. I mean, they'll be kicking themselves this season. I think that's the difference between this season and last season. They struggled to convert them single points to 3 points. I think. You can't expect anything less of Wolves anymore than seventh. Really, that's the sort of position they should be getting. So for that reason alone, I'm going to give them a 6. I've been slightly disappointed with them, to be honest. I mean, finishing above Arsenal, is that even an achievement anymore? I'm going to give them a 6. I've been very disappointed.
Yeah, just touching on Wolves briefly, I think their draws, I think for them, it's their negative style of play really lets them down sometimes. I think, like, the way they sit back, if they go 1 goal behind, they are just screwed. And I think sometimes that does let them down in the bigger games, like the last game of the season. And onto my team, Arsenal, I think 2 out of 10. I think, is it the lowest points total in 30 years or something? Just shocking from Arsenal. People were saying they're going to be in the top 4 race at the start of the season above Chelsea, and they have been nowhere near. People were saying their deadline day signings were Tierney, Luis. Everyone was so impressed with their window, and just shocking season from them. Very disappointing, but there is signs of hope with Arteta. So at the end of the season, they do look a lot better, a lot more organised. If anything, the personnel are still letting them down in the big games, as Kolasinac did against Spurs and Luis did against Man City. So they are going to need to get more personnel to stop their mistakes in the big games. But overall, they look much more compact. And I think next season they should be at least in the fight. Whereas this season, I think most teams thought they'd have an easy day playing Arsenal. On to Sheffield was here.
What was the rate?
Yeah, Sheffield United, for me, finishing 9th, it can't. If I could give 11, I would. It's a 10 out of 10 from me. Everyone had them written off, bottom of the table, saying you can't have flying centre backs in the Premier League. Their squad, on name basis, is an average Championship squad. It was amazing they even got out the Premier League, and Wilder to finish 9th in the Premier League, challenging for the Champions League at one stage. I think don't let their poor form towards the end of the season shadow what has been a fantastic season for them, and a 10 is fully deserved, and Wilder Manager of the Year for me.
On to Burnley. Fantastic season for them. Again, similar for Sheffield United point of view. Burnley's team is dire, to be honest. It's actually abysmal. I mean, the likes of Chris Wood, Tarkowski, Ben Mee and Pope being their standout players speaks for itself, to be honest. All 4 of which have done fantastic this season by all means. But fantastic. Straight middle of the pack, 10th position for them. Can't really ask for anything more. So for that reason, I'm going to give them an 8. They've been fantastic this season, and hopefully see them up there again next season if they can improve some areas of the pitch. Harry for Southampton.
Do you know what? I'm going to give them a 9. Just for how incredibly bad their start was. The fact they've crept up to 11th, nearly in the top up, is ridiculous. The fact they've managed to turn it around like that, mainly due to Ings, but also I think Hasenhüttl, the way they press is, I think they've got the most successful press in high areas in the Premier League. And I'm very impressed with Southampton. Going into next season, I can easily see them being where Sheffield and Wolves are if they keep it up and get a few new additions. I think losing Højbjerg to, I think Spurs have bid in for him. I think that will be a big loss for them. But if they can get a new addition, so yeah, I'm going to go 9 just simply for that second half of the season turnaround was just incredible.
Yeah, we got Everton in 12th. It's going to have to be another low rating for me. It's going to be a 5 out of 10 for them. Not even getting into the top half with the amount of money they've spent is just ridiculous. Ancelotti's come in. He's done an average job really. He started quite well and then it's kind of tailed off. But it'll be really interesting to see what they do next season. But I don't think you can give them any more than the 5, maybe even lower.
West Ham.
Newcastle.
Newcastle. Sorry, I've jumped the gun there. Newcastle at 13th. I'm going to quickly touch upon the fact that the takeover's not gone through. I'm absolutely gutted for Newcastle fans any longer with Mike Ashley, and to be honest, I'd probably pack football in if I was a Newcastle fan. Anyway, on to their rating. Considering the circumstances, I mean, their team isn't dreadful. Joe Linton was terrible. St. Maximin, Shelvey and Dubravka, as I touched upon previously in the episode, have been their standout players. I'm going to go, 7, pretty average for Newcastle. You sort of expect them to be in and around the mid-table mark at this point. I'm really glad they've actually escaped the yo-yo club mentality that they had not long ago. So yeah, well done Newcastle.
Quickly on Newcastle, I just want to applaud Steve Bruce. I think a lot of people writing him off of just ridiculous. Me writing him off, and I think he's actually done a really good job with Newcastle, especially towards the end of the season. I think really hard side to beat, and I think they've been very impressive this season. St. Maximin, as James said, Joe Linton's let them down a bit, but I think overall Steve Bruce has to be commended for the job he's done. I think most Newcastle fans would agree with that. So on to Palace for me. And I think that's a hard one. I think many people would have tipped them for relegation. And I don't think Zaha's actually been too impressive this season compared to other seasons. So for them, I'm just going to give them a 6 out of 10. Nothing impressive. They're a bit above where they should be, but yeah, nothing too major. They survived relegation, so I guess that's something to shout about. But yeah, nothing too impressive from Crystal Palace. About where I thought they would be, just above relegation. So on to Brighton in 15th position.
Yeah, Brighton, a really interesting team. Probably my second favourite side to watch in the league, apart from Liverpool this season. I think the football they play is fantastic. Finishing 15th, I think a lot of people tip them for relegation, so you've got to give them an 8 out of 10 from my perspective. Next season, I'm going to have a lot higher standards for them next season because I think they're a top half team, at least, with Graham Potter, the English Guardiola in my books. So yeah, great season for them. The signings of Maupay, Webster, great signings from the Championship, and big things to come from them. 8 out of 10 from me.
Now I can get on to my West Ham rating. Terrible season for them. I think Declan Rice will be glad to see the back of this abysmal team, to be honest. And I think Antonio should follow in the same vein. I think he should have left a few years ago, when Payet did, when he had that fantastic season then. West Ham, dire, gonna go 4. They've been shocking. I mean, lucky to escape relegation really in the end. Had a strong finish, mainly because of Antonio. Shocking. And let's see what Harry's opinions are on that ropey Villa team.
Well, first of all, hate Villa, hate the way they play, just anti-football, just ridiculous. All they do is pass it to Grealish. Not a fan of them staying up, but they have stayed up, and for that, I think everyone thought they'd go down. So for them staying up, I think you've got to give them 8 out of 10. But for the money they spent, that knocks one off. So 7 out of 10 for me this season, because they did spend a ridiculous amount of money. A lot of just ropey signings. You know what? One I do like though, Douglas Luiz. And see, he looks class, and I think if they did go down, he'd definitely be out the door. But they have stayed up, and it looks like they may keep him, which is definitely good for him. So I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10 this season, and Tiers is rating Bournemouth in 18th.
Yeah, we've all got one of the relegated sides each, and let's go with Bournemouth now. I think it is what can you rate a relegation season? It's got to be a 3 out of 10 from me. I don't think anyone expected them to go down, really. They've been pretty standard Premier League side for the last few years. There are signs of Eddie Howe just last season looking like he'd taken the team as far as he can. They're great against the big sides. They've had some great wins against big sides in the Premier League. Look no further than that 3-0 away win against Chelsea. It's just against the lesser sides they just really struggle, and the way they've spent their money has been ludicrous. I mean, who are their scouts? They're just awful. Basically, the scouting is, does he play for the Liverpool Academy? All right, let's take him for 15 mil. Solanke, Brad Smith, Jordan Ibe, all absolute waste of money, and they've taken Championship players who have played no more than 30 professional games, look no further than Chris Mepham, Lloyd Kelly, who just haven't been up to Premier League standard. And I really do fear for them in the Championship next season, because I don't think they can scout the players who are going to be necessary to take them back up. So yeah, 3 out of 10 from me.
On to Watford. Now, this is probably this is quite easily going to be my lowest rating of the episode. That team that they had is just incredible. I mean, Ben Foster, one of the best keepers in the league on his day. Defence is pretty ropey, but that midfield, Decore, Capu, you chuck the likes of Deeney into the conversation up front, and then you got Ismail Assar as well, who had a really good season, to be fair, and I'm gutted for him. He'll get another Premier League move next season, as will the other players I've just named, but they can't get any more than a 1 for me. I mean, they've got relegated. Their squad on paper, out of the relegated teams, out of the teams up to 17th, their squad's so much better than Villa's as well. I mean, it's been dire from Watford, and like Tia said about Bournemouth, I worry about them in the Championship, to be honest, because they're going to lose their best players. Harry for Norwich.
Well, I think, touching on Watford, perpetrators of their own downfall. This sacking managers is just ridiculous at this point. Like, what are they doing? Nigel Pearson wasn't even doing a bad job, and they just sack him. What's going on at Watford? I think they just deserve to go down. For their management is just something else. And Norwich, for me, it's a hard one because no one expected anything, especially with their spend. What they spend under 7 mil, and they got most of them were loans. And none of their loans paid off, and I think they've got to go down as one of the worst Premier League seasons ever. I think that Derby County team, I'm not sure how many points they got, but I think it was 11 points. So I think that's definitely the worst, but Norwich have got to be up there. But also, no one expected anything, so I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10 because I think most people tipped them to be 20th, and they were. But so they didn't overachieve. They did what people thought. And, they beat Man City. They picked up a few decent wins, but their defence was just something else. I think the amount of goals they conceded was absolutely ridiculous. And, after Pookie called off, people were saying he was one really good Premier League striker. Now look at him, shocking. So I think after he called off, they didn't stand a chance. But and also I feel for them next season, a lot of players are going to be leaving. Aarons has already been interested in Bayern Munich in an £18.4 million move. So I think they're going to lose a lot of their good players, and I do worry for them maybe doing a Sunderland if they do lose a lot of their players. So I'm going to give them a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, and that's the table. Next time we'll be discussing a table is when we do our Premier League and Championship table predictions in just a couple of weeks' time. So look forward to that, guys, and thanks for listening to this one. It's been an interesting Premier League season. We're hoping for a bit more of a title race next year, but it's been nice to have it not null and voided and see it be seen out. Thanks for listening as usual. Remember to check our Twitter at addedtime_pod, the website www.45plus3.com, and stay safe out there, guys. Goodbye.